Hey guys. Um yeah, camera's a little high, but yeah, it's all right. I'll still read. I'm just going to read one chapter, chapter 16. My brother asked me, he's teaching in Miami, and I'm like he asked me like, how do you read your novel? How do you do it how do you teach it to the kids? I'm like, yeah, I sit in all these different cars. This is like the quietest place. This is a different car. This is like a Nissan 4x4 pickup. But yeah, awesome place to read a book just because of the sound. So today we're going to read chapter 16. Remember in the last chapter, he met the neighbor and she promises like she's going to open up a new world for him, for Luke, that he no longer has to live like isolated and closed off to the world in his attic. So let's see what happens in chapter 16. Want any more potatoes, Luke? Mother offered that night at supper. Luke? Her voice got more insistent. Luke! Luke jerked his attention back to his family, and Mother was holding the bowl of mashed potatoes out to him. No, Luke said. No thanks, I've still got some. More for me, Mark crowed. And Luke turned them out again, and he barely had eaten his first serving of potatoes. He'd been too busy thinking about his secret visit to the sports family house. He couldn't believe he dared to go, and just the thought of his run through their yard made his heart beat fast, remembering fear and pride. He had really done it. And then meeting Jen was amazing. There was no other word for it. He was so overwhelmed with wonder at everything he'd seen at her house, everything she'd told him, that he started to say, "Did you know that, Jen?" And at the last minute, he clamped his teeth shut, holding the words in, and he thought he'd burst. He could feel his face flushed red with the effort of keeping still, and he bent his head low over his plate so no one would see, but how could he ever manage to keep Jen a secret? But he had to, because if he told, they'd forbid him to go back, and he had to go back. Well, set up a signal. We will set up a signal, something I can see, but you don't have vents to look out like I do, Luke protested. Well, you can't look out the windows. Oh, when the mirrors work, it's not a problem. Look. And she took him over to a window near the sliding glass door and showed him a mirror that reflected a wide view of the Talbots' backyard and the landscape beyond. It showed just the corner of the Garner's barn, but when Jen turned it a bit, the entire Garner house came into view. Luke wondered if his parents could set up the same kind of system. Then he looked at the mirror again and decided it might be expensive, and anyway, how could he explain where he'd gotten the idea? So let's see, Jen said. A signal. I've got it. How about if I look out every morning at 9, and if you can come over, you shine a flashlight at me, and I'll shine one back if everything's safe. We don't have any flashlights, Luke said. Not that work, I mean, Jen frowned. Why not? So guys, remember, this was before the day of WhatsApp and stuff like that. They had to do these signals. We haven't any batteries in. I don't know, 4 or 5 years, Luke explained. In fact, he felt proud even to remember what a flashlight was. Okay, Jen said. No flashlight, no computer. Okay, well, we have a computer, Luke said. My parents do, and I think it still works, but it's in Dad's office in the front of the house, and I'm not allowed in there. And anyhow, I'd never be allowed to touch the computer. He remembered once, when he was very young, maybe 3 or 4, he'd followed Mother into Dad's office while she was cleaning. The rows of letters on the computer keyboard had looked like a toy to him, and he'd reached one finger up and tapped the space bar over and over again. Mother had turned around and freaked out. They can't find you now, she screamed. If they were watching. And for weeks after that, she'd hidden him even more carefully than ever, locking him in his room when she had to go outside. Jen rolled her eyes. Don't tell me your family believes that government propaganda stuff, she said. They've spent so much money trying to convince people they can monitor all the TVs and computers. You know they couldn't have afforded to actually do it. I've been using our computer since I was 3, and watching TV, too. And they've never caught me. How about a candle? Something just hit my mind. We need to look into Mr. Snowden. Mr. Snowden revealed exactly what the government does regarding, checking up on your computers. What? It took Luke a minute to realize she was talking about the signal again. The candles. They're all in the kitchen, and I'm not allowed. And Jen mimicked the words as he said them, to go in there. Well, they've got you on an awfully short leash, don't they? Well, no, I mean, yes, but they're just trying to protect me. And Jen shook her head like, yeah, I've heard that one. Ever hear of disobeying? I'm here, aren't I? Jen laughed. Got me. But listen, if you can't do candles or a flashlight, how about just turning on a light that I can see? And Luke was quicker this time, figuring out that she was still talking about the signal. The one by the back door. You can't miss it. He wasn't allowed to turn that on either, but he didn't dare say, not allowed, again. Now Luke toyed with his mashed potatoes. His entire conversation with Jen had been like that. She mocked, he defended, but she always got her way. Of course, he defended her to himself. She knew and had seen so much more than him. And after he'd finished his story on the couch, she told him hers. First, she said defiantly, my parents had me on purpose 13 years ago. Mom already had Bull and Brawn from her first marriage. Your brothers? Luke asked. Yeah, Bulleton and Brownily, really. But what kind of names are those for knuckleheads like them? Mom was going through some snobbish, upper-class phase with husband number 1. She had more than one husband, Luke asked. He didn't know that was possible. Well, sure, Jen said. Dad, who's really my stepdad, is number 3. Wow, sounds like my family. Luke found that so confusing, he just kept his mouth shut. Anyhow, Jen said, Mom was dying to have a little girl. So when she and her husband number 2 got together, she went and paid some doctors lots of money so she can get pregnant. Well, what if you'd been a boy? Luke asked. Oh, they got in on the beginning of the gender selection experiments. Luke must have given Jen a particularly blank look because she explained it. That means they made sure I was a girl. Doctors can do that, but the government outlawed the procedure because they were afraid it would throw the population even more out of whack. And I'm sure my parents paid a lot for it. Were your mom and dad trying for a girl? Luke thought about it, but he remembered Mother saying she wanted 4 boys. But would she have wanted a girl even more? Someone like Mother? He couldn't really picture a girl in his house. Well, they weren't trying for anything, he said. I was just a surprise. Like luck. Jen nodded. I didn't think they paid for you, she said, and then she put her hand over her mouth. That sounded really terrible, didn't it? But I didn't mean anything by it. It's just, you're the first person I've met who wasn't a baron. Well, how do you know I'm not? Luke asked. Well, Jen waved her hand in the way that made Luke even more aware of the contrast between his ragged flannel shirt and patched jeans and Jen's perfect house. Look, don't be mad. It doesn't matter. Or maybe it does. But I think it's cool that you're not a baron. And you could help me even more. Help? With the rally, Jen said. She bit her lip. Should I? Well, there's no way that you could be an infiltrator, is there? Can I trust you? Of course you can. He felt insulted again. Jen leaned her head back and stared at the ceiling as if an answer were written there. Then she looked back at Luke. Well, I'm sorry, I'm botching this. I'm not used to really talking. Just on the net. Look, I trust you, but I'm not the only one involved. So let's wait. Okay? Okay. But he couldn't help sounding injured. Jen leaned over and gave his shoulder a quick shake. Oh, don't say it like that. Say, okay, Jen, I respect your judgment. Or, okay, Jen, whatever you think is best. She giggled. And that's what Dad tells me when I should say that I disagree with him. Can you believe it? Lawyers. Luke was glad the subject had changed. Your dad's a lawyer, he asked. Jen rolled her eyes. Yeah, all Mom's husbands have been. Strange taste, huh? Number 1 was an environmental lawyer of all things, and number 2 was corporate. And that's how they have enough money to get me. And number 3, Dad is with the government. High up, I might add. But if you're an illegal... Luke hadn't thought he can get any more confused. Jen laughed. Haven't you learned? Government leaders are the worst ones for breaking laws. How do you think we got this house? How do you think I got internet access? How do you think we live? Jen's right. I don't know, Luke said, fully honest. I don't think I know much of anything. And Jen patted his head as if he were a little kid or a dog. That's okay, you'll learn. It wasn't long after that Luke said he had to leave because he was afraid Dad or Matthew or Mark might come in for lunch a little early. And he dreaded the trip back. Jen walked him to the door, chattering the whole way. I'll fix the screen and deal with the security system, and no one will ever know that you were here, she said. And, oh no, Luke followed her gaze, and she was staring at 3 pinpoints of blood on the carpet. I'm sorry, Luke said. That must be from when I scraped my hand. I'll clean it up. There's still time. Secretly, he was glad of the delay. No. I don't care about the carpet. It's just that Mom and Dad will know, and when they see that I don't have any cuts... And then, before Luke even knew what she was doing, she thrust her hand toward the torn part of the screen. The jagged edge didn't cut immediately, so she held the screen with her right hand and raked it across her left. And when Jen pulled her hand back, Luke saw a gash even deeper than his. Jen squeezed out a few drops of blood and let them fall onto the carpet. Ooh, this is weird. Now they're like blood brothers. There, she said. Stunned, Luke backed out of the door. Come back soon, farmer boy. Luke turned and ran blindly, not even slowing down to creep alongside the barn. He went straight to the back of the house, yanked it open, let it bang shut behind him. Now, sitting at supper, he felt his heart pounding again and thought about how dangerous this all had been. Why hadn't he looked first? Why hadn't he crawled? He poked his fork into the potatoes, now gone cold and congealed. He watched Mother gathering up dirty dishes while Dad, Matthew, and Mark leaned back in their chairs, talking of grain yields. Jen had scared him. That was why. Seeing her cut her hand had terrified him. How could she do something like that for him when they had just met? Ooh, a lot of explanations I have, but I'll save them. Anyway, I like this book, and I'm being very serious. I'm reading this book right now for the first time, so the suspense is really building for me. So, I kind of like the whole idea of reading in these cars. I like the sound system. Everything's very compact. I could look out and I could see the birds moving around. So, I kind of like it. So, thanks, guys. And, let's see if this car starts up. Oh, yeah. I like, 94.1 Su FM. See you guys.